Hello, in this video we're going to look at using anonymous inner classes. So an anonymous inner class is a class that we define as part of a parameter to a method, or as a parameter to a method. And we're going to use anonymous inner classes to simplify the creation of event handlers. So it makes our code a bit more concise when we're actually gluing together all of our GUI controls. What I mean is, so previously, when we wanted to have an event listener that listens to, for example, a button press, we defined an inner class. For example, enlarge handler and shrink handler were classes that we created that implemented event handler, and then we had our handle methods. That's one way of doing it. What we're going to do in this video is look at anonymous inner classes. So I'll just close this, and what we'll do is create a new project. This will be a Javafx project called Anonymous Demo. And I will add to this a class in the default package, also called, actually I'll call this Anonymous Handler Demo. Okay, the first thing we'll do inside our class is make Anonymous Handler Demo extend from application. Actually, I'll give us some more room first. Okay, and we will immediately implement our start method. Okay, what we're going to do in this video is create a very simple Javafx GUI application which will simply be a window that contains 4 buttons. So we'll get this done very quickly. We're going to arrange our buttons horizontally, so for this we'll use an HBox. We'll create the new object using the default constructor, and we'll set the spacing to 10 to give us a bit of room. Alright, we'll also center this in our window, so we'll go hbox.setAlignment pos.center. Alright, what we're going to do now is quickly create 4 button objects. So button, we'll call this bt new equals new button new. So what I'll do now is simply copy and paste this a few times. Alright, we'll call this one open, save, print. And we're just prefixing these with BT to give us a hint that they are, in fact, buttons. Alright, I'll just change the string that appears on each of these buttons. Open, save, and print. And now what we'll do is add these buttons to our horizontal box. And to do this all in one quick call, we'll get our children list from HBox. And then we'll use the method add all on that list. And so we'll add bt new, bt open, bt save, and bt print. Alright. Next up, we will create our scene and add that to our primary stage. So we'll have our scene object, which will hold our horizontal box, and we'll set the size of the window to 300 by 50. Next up, we'll set the title of our stage to Anonymous Handler Demo. Oops, that's supposed to be a string. There we go. And we will set the scene of our stage to be the one we just created. And we'll finally show our stage. Alright, I'll quickly add a main method so we can run this from Eclipse. I'm sure they'll fix this and make this main method unnecessary, but for the moment we need it. Alright, so now we can run our program. I just saved that. So we hit run, and we've got a very simple window that contains 4 buttons that don't do anything yet. So normally this would be the point where we create our inner classes to handle our events for us. What we're going to do in this video is use anonymous inner classes to make this simpler for us. So what we're going to do, just here, before we create our scene, is set the first action. So what happens when BT new gets pressed? So what we'll do, get our variable BT new, our new button, and call set on action. Now what we're going to do here is, instead of having our own class that we've already defined, we're just going to create a new event handler like this. Now, how is that going to work, you ask? Because event handler before we do that, let's just hit control space on here, and we'll get our... that did more than what I expected to. Eclipse is getting too carried away. It's already done it for us. Anyway, let's not spoil the surprise. Let's get back to how we were. So we're going to create a new event handler. How will we do this, you might ask? Because event handler is in fact an interface. How are we going to create a new interface object? That doesn't make sense. Aha! This is where anonymous classes become so useful. So what we're going to do is create a new event handler class, templated to action event, and then we have our opening and closing parentheses as if to be our default constructor. But then, instead of just having this line as is, we're going to have a code block here. And so what we're going to do in here is put in the code for our handle method. Like that. So now we have an object that implements event handler because it has the handle method. However, we haven't had to actually explicitly define it. We've just said, yep, create a new event handler object. Oh, and by the way, it happens to use this handle method. That's how I like to think of anonymous inner classes anyway. So what we're going to do in here is just simply call system.out.println so that we can see that our event handler is actually being called. So let's run our program again. And you can see we've jumped over the console in Eclipse. Every time we hit the new button, process new gets printed out. So that means our event handler is working as an anonymous inner class. Now, what I'm going to do now is quickly add these for the other 3 buttons, and I'll just show you how easy it is. If you're using an IDE such as Eclipse, it happened by accident just before, but let's go through it again. Let's add an event listener to our open button. So again, we call the set on action method, and we create a new event handler object. Now, what I've done is press Control space, and you can see we get our code completion up here like normal. And you can see the default is actually to create an anonymous inner type, which is exactly what we did up here, but now Eclipse is doing all the work for us. So if I press enter on here, and this time it hasn't done what I thought it was going to do. Just can't win with Eclipse. Yeah. Oh well. It doesn't matter because it's so easy to do anyway. I always find the code completion in Eclipse to always not quite get what I want. It's very good, but it's not perfect. So again, we'll just print something out to the console to make this easy to see what's going on. We run our program, and now this time when we hit process new gets printed out to the console. When I press open, process open gets printed out to the console. And it's the same with we do things in the same way for the other buttons as well. So with that, that's it for this video. I'll leave you to add the anonymous inner classes for the other two buttons. But for now, that's it. So thanks a lot.